After 22 years of fighting, coaching, and winning at the highest level in Muay Thai, I have learned exactly what separates the ones that are average to the ones that go pro. Most people think that if you got a flashy spinning elbow and a mean game face on, you've got it all figured out. Spoiler alert, you don't. The truth is, talent gets you started. Structure, discipline, and knowing actually what matters, that's what takes you to the top. In this video, I'm breaking down all the mistakes that I've seen for the last 2 decades in this sport and exactly how to fix them so that you don't waste your time like I did. All right, so let's go. Point number 1 is your lack of structure in training. I'm training hard, but am I actually getting better? This is the number 1 killer of potential. You're showing up to practice, you're sweating buckets, but your training is basically like throwing spaghetti at the wall. So here's the fix, all right? You want to have some structure. You want some sparring days, conditioning days, skill days, recovering days, and you want to log everything. You want to treat your training just like a professional fighter treats his training in a training camp, all right? All the things I didn't have back then 20 years ago when I came up, all right? Nowadays, you have apps, you have your cell phone, you have videos, you can record and log everything. It's very easy. And remember, every week has a purpose. I always tell my student to show up in class prepared on what they want to work, all right? It could be something as simple as a check and a return, all right? But have intention. When you drive to the gym in your car, be locked in already. When you show up to class, show up early as a professional. Stretch, warm up, all those things matters, all right? Act like a professional and your potential can skyrocket really quick, okay? Point number 2 is inconsistent sparring confidence. And this is a big one. You know, you all seen the guy that looks great on the pads, but when it comes to sparring days and people are around watching, they just freeze. So how are you going to fix this? First of all, make sure that you are choosing a partner that is around your level, all right, and control. You want to start control sparring with progressive pressure. Listen, confidence comes from volume and safe exposure and not jumping into straight wars. All right, remember you have a long career ahead. And if you look at the Thais over in Thailand that fight every month, that have 300 fights, they play spar. And when you are in this environment, you're able to relax and actually learn a lot more. So don't feel pressured because your coach or another teammate is calling you out. All right, everybody has their own level. Everybody has their own path. Point number 3 is you're struggling with fight cardio. You train hard 5 days out of the week, but you gas out in round 2. Welcome to the club. I only do bag work. So here's how you're gonna fix that, okay? It's called zone-based conditioning. Mix low-intensity base work, mid-intensity pad rounds, and high-intensity sparring simulation. You don't need to train harder. You need to train smarter for the fight pace. And listen, I tell all my students, you can't do 2 days in a row in the red zone. What I mean by that is if you show up and you train very hard, you spar very hard, you come the next day, you do the same, your nervous system doesn't have time to recover. And therefore, the information that you're going to process, you're not going to learn it. All right. So be smart about your training. You don't have to go hard every day. Going hard maybe twice a week is plenty enough, especially when you learn. All right. You don't need to go hard as much as you think. Point number 4 is technical gaps in your fight IQ. And what I mean by that is you know every technique, but you're not sure when to use it when you actually spar somebody out there and you feel lost. And I see this all the time. Listen, that's like owning all the tools at Home Depot, but don't know how to use which one to just fix a chair, for example, okay? So here's how you're gonna fix that, right? First of all, very important, something I've never done at the beginning of my career is study film. You want to also train situational sparring, okay? I have all my students do this. We'll take a situation, whether it's offensive, defensive, countering, whatever it is, simulate a situation in a fight scenario and emulate that. You want to work on distance control and then setups. You want to build the habit of reading an opponent instead of just reacting, all right? So studying martial arts in general, even though you don't apply that specific technique, even knowing it and learning how to read it is going to make you a better fighter. Point number 5 is cutting weight the wrong way. And this is something, again, I see over and over students doing the wrong way, okay? Listen, Thai people, they don't cut weight. I was fortunate enough to start my career with a Thai coach, and I've never cut it weight as an amateur. I would just show up at my weight and I felt great. Most of my career was cruiserweight at 190 and then glory kickboxing also at 187. And even then, I cut 10 pounds at the most back then. Yes, I did fight guys that were bigger than me, probably stronger, but I was faster, I was smarter, and I ended up winning most of my fights, okay? Listen, if your weight cut makes you look like you're auditioning for The Walking Dead, you know you're doing something wrong. So here's the fix, okay? You want to start your weight cut early as far as the diet goes, but most people get it wrong is they dehydrate themselves way too early. You really want to wait for the last 48 hours for this, even the last 24 hours, because here we're just talking about water dehydration, okay? So this is very, very crucial that you don't start dehydrating yourself 5-6 days before the fight, because comes to the weigh-in and the fight, you're really gonna suffer. My advice to you as far as the diet goes is taper off the carbohydrates the week of the fight, because the week of the fight you won't really train with the same intensity, all right? And carbohydrates, as a reminder, makes you hold water. So when you cut off the sugar and the carbohydrates, you'll lose the water weight a lot easier. And you're talking about, depending on what your weight class is, for me it could be 5 or 6 pounds easy just by cutting carbohydrates. And stop googling how to cut weight, all right, the night before you actually go to the weigh-in. Hire a professional, ask your coach, ask fighters that have experience with weight cut, but don't guess it. And you're not alone when you're doing this, all right? You're supposed to have guidance when it comes to weight cut. There's been plenty of death, all right, when it comes to weight cuts with fighters, so make sure that you are guided the right way. Point number 7 is balancing your work life and your school life as well. Listen, you're trying to go pro, but you're also working 50 hours a week and you're at school. Trust me, I've been there, okay? When I was an amateur, I would train every day for 2 or 3 hours. I would start my day with running, conditioning. I would go to school, go to work, and come back late night and train again. So I've dealt with all this. But here's the reality. When you follow that lifestyle, right, your brain is so fried, and physically, emotionally, you're just not as invested, okay? So all the information, again, that you're gonna come and learn, you're not gonna process it the same way. So here's how you're gonna fix that, all right? You wanna prioritize shorter but more intense session, okay? Again, you don't have to be in the gym every single day. Even if you showed up 3 times a week consistently for years, I'd much rather have a student that comes to me and does that than the student that comes drained, fatigued, stressed out 5 or 6 times a week. And also, this is something I didn't take, as I should when I was an amateur, is prioritize your recovery days. Again, don't train hard every day, all right? Maybe Mondays and Tuesdays gonna be hard. Wednesday could be a days off or a light day. We're gonna do sauna, ice bath, maybe a massage, acupuncture, whatever that is. Go back to your schedule Thursday and Friday and then repeat. But you have to include recovery protocols into your training schedule. Point number 8 is the mental pressure and the self-doubt. And listen, I guarantee you, I'm a world champion in Muay Thai and kickboxing, and I've always had self-doubt. It's normal. It's part of the life of an athlete, okay? Listen, if you're always waiting to feel ready for a fight, you'll never be, okay? So how are you going to fix that? By exposure therapy. When it comes to sparring days and you feel tired and gassed and you only did 4 or 5 and you want to go sit down, push yourself to do an extra round each week, all right? And nowadays is what you have smokers or PKBs, which is low contact, no knocked out PKBs, right? Great exposure right here. I have all my students, after a certain amount of training, I throw them in the PKBs just so that they gain the confidence and the experience. Remember, you want to build your wins inside the gym. So finding a community, finding a team like we have here at Victory MMA is crucial. And remember, your first fight, all right, is supposed to scare you, but you'll always remember it. It's like your first time you had sex. Point number 9 is injuries and inconsistent recovery. And listen, as a professional athlete for the last 20 years, I'm 39 years old. I haven't competed in the last 5 years. I had to retire because of my elbow injuries. If I count all the time that I've missed on competing, it totals about 7 years of my career. Could you imagine that? 7 years. And when I was younger, I was the type of guy, if I got hurt, I didn't fix it right away. Maybe I didn't have the money, I didn't have the guidance, I didn't know what to do. But nowadays, you do, okay? You can go on the internet and educate yourself. But one thing that I was good at is always be a step ahead as an athlete. When it comes to nutrition, recovery, sleep, supplement, I was always educating myself so I could be the best I could be, all right? So if you do have an injury, treat it right away and don't wait. How you going to fix this is going back to implementing recovery protocols into your training, okay? I'm talking about foam rolling every day, mobility work for your joints, your hips, your shoulders, your elbows, your neck, ice baths, sauna, acupuncture, massages, all right? Treat your recovery just like it was training. Trust me, in the end, it will compound if you wait. Don't wait to have an injury. We want to prevent that as much as you can so that you can stay consistent with your training. And point number 10, the last one, one is how to navigate from going amateur to pro. Now listen, going pro isn't just a skill thing, all right? Most people always ask me, what's the difference between amateur and pro? And to be honest, there's really not that much except the number of rounds, the amount of time of the rounds, and of course, the money and sponsorships involved. Now, the biggest difference is going to be, it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of medicals that you usually have to pay on your own, a lot of headache. You got to deal with the matchmaking, the promoter, maybe selling tickets, all of that stuff, all right? And to be honest, it's a headache. So how are you going to fix that, all right? You want to focus on building your fight record, all right? Building a good resume, finding good fights, good promotion locally that are going to take you to a championship levels, and really building your fight experience, all right? You want to network with local promoters, all right? You want to find a coach like myself that can vouch for his students and guide them the right way. And one of the mistakes that I see often is, and I've done that myself, I was 8-0 as an amateur, but I jumped into the pro, all right, too soon. I didn't have the experience that a lot of my fighters right now, 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, now amateur champions, right? They are facing really top quality opponents here in the US, and they're getting the proper experience that they need before going pro, all right? You could go pro after 3 amateur fights. Nobody's going to tell you no, but once you go pro, you can't go back. So be very careful when you choose to go pro. Guys, do me a favor, if you found value in this video, please hit the subscribe button because there's going to be more coming, all right? I've been around this sport forever. I know all the ins and outs, from training to nutrition to recovery to fight IQ to how to get ready for a fight mentally, emotionally. I've done it all. So if you have any struggles, obstacles you're dealing with right now, please drop me a comment below, all right? And that could be my next video to try to help you out and educate you. Listen, Muay Thai is simple, but it's not easy, all right? It comes from the heart and the soul. And I've been doing this for over 30 years, all right? I started martial arts at 4 years old. I had my first kickboxing fight at 12 years old. I moved to the US at 19 and I started competing right away. So my job here in those videos is to make your job easier so you can become more dangerous, more disciplined, and feel ready for the next step. So I'll see you in the next video.